right, so Elon Musk, right? I feel like you can't go a day without hearing his name. But what's he really up to? Especially when it comes to AI. I think a lot of people are trying to figure that out. Ready to do a little deep dive and see what we can uncover?
You know, it's funny. When you start looking past the headlines, it's clear Musk isn't just another Silicon Valley CEO. He's got this, well, almost philosophical side to him. Like he's wrestling with some really big questions about where humanity's headed, and AI seems to be right at the center of that.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes him so interesting. Like, he's not just building companies, he's trying to steer the future in a very specific direction.
He's not afraid to put his money where his mouth is.
Right.
Look at Tesla. Electric cars. Sure, that's part of it. But the way Musk talks about it, it's about more than just cool cars. It's about sustainable energy, about solving climate change. And that's where AI comes in, making self-driving a reality to change how we get around.
It's like he sees these huge interconnected problems, and AI is the key to unlocking solutions.
Exactly. And then there's SpaceX. Yeah. I mean, come on, colonizing Mars, that's straight out of science fiction. But for Musk, it seems like a very real, very urgent mission. He's worried about what happens if humanity stays confined to Earth. All our eggs in one basket, basically. And again, AI is a huge part of that vision, making that kind of journey even possible.
So Tesla's about safeguarding the future of Earth, and SpaceX is about, well, having a backup planet just in case.
Right. Two sides of the same coin, maybe.
Yeah.
And then there's Neuralink, and that's where things get really trippy. Brain-computer interfaces. I mean, we're talking merging minds with machines. It's mind-blowing stuff.
Neuralink definitely gets people talking, and it's easy to see why. It feels like something out of a movie, but they're actually doing it.
And this is where you see that core idea of Musk's, I think. AI isn't just some neat technology. It's going to fundamentally change what being human means. Neuralink is almost like the ultimate test of that idea. Think about it. Treating diseases like Parkinson's by directly interfacing with the brain. It's like something out of Star Trek, but it could be reality.
But that raises some pretty huge ethical questions too, right? Like, where do we draw the line between human and machine? If we can enhance our brains with AI, what does that mean for our identity, our free will? That's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We're wading into some pretty deep philosophical waters here. It's not just about the cool tech. It's about what it does to us, to our humanity.
So to sum it up, we've got Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink, all pushing technology in different ways, but all tied to this idea of AI fundamentally reshaping our future.
And that's where the AI debate gets really interesting, because you've got people on both sides. The optimists who see AI as this amazing tool for progress, for solving problems we could never solve before. But then you've got those who are really worried about things like jobs disappearing, algorithms getting biased, even losing control of the whole thing.
Right. So it's not all sunshine and roses when it comes to AI.
Yeah.
There are some legitimate concerns there that we need to take seriously.
Absolutely. Like, think about jobs. What happens when AI can do a lot of the work humans do now? And it's not just manual labor. We're talking white-collar jobs, too. And then there's the whole question of bias. If we're not careful, AI could just amplify the prejudices that already exist in society. And then the big one, control. What happens when AI becomes so powerful that it's calling the shots? That's a scary thought.
So where does Musk land on all of this? He's obviously pushing AI forward with his companies, but is he aware of these potential downsides?
Yeah, and that's what's interesting. He seems to be on both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
Like, he's one of the people who co-founded OpenAI, right? And the whole idea was to make sure AI develops in a way that benefits humanity, not harms it. So he's pushing the limits, but also trying to put some guardrails in place.
It's like he's trying to find that balance between progress and caution. Pushing ahead, but making sure we don't create something that ultimately destroys us.
It's a tightrope walk, for sure. And the stakes are pretty high. I mean, we're talking about the future of humanity here.
Yeah, right. It's not just about making our lives a bit easier. This is about some really fundamental questions about what it means to be human in an age of AI. And I think that's what makes this whole conversation so important.
It is. And it's not just for experts and tech people to figure out. This is something we all need to be thinking about, because it's going to impact all of us.
Absolutely. So to kind of wrap up this part of our deep dive, we've got these companies, Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, all pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And at the heart of it all is this idea of AI as a force that's going to reshape humanity in some pretty fundamental ways.
And that's where it gets really interesting, because the big question is, what kind of future do we want to create with AI? You know, when you really look at everything Musk is doing and say, it's clear he sees technology as this tool, you know, a way to solve these huge problems facing humanity. But it's not just about fixing things here on Earth. It goes deeper than that. He seems really concerned about humanity surviving long term, like really long term. And that's where SpaceX comes in.
Yeah, it's like he's thinking on a whole different time scale than most people. Like, most of us are worried about what's happening next week, next year maybe. But Musk is thinking centuries, millennia, even further out.
Exactly. And that's where this whole Mars colonization thing fits in. It's not just about planting a flag on another planet for him.
Right.
It's about ensuring humanity has a backup plan, a way to survive, even if things go really wrong here on Earth.
Okay, but why Mars? Why not the moon? I mean, it's closer, right? It seems like that would be easier.
Well, yeah, the moon is definitely easier to get to, but it's a pretty rough place.
Yeah.
You know, Mars, on the other hand, has more potential to be like Earth, at least eventually. It's got water ice, a thin atmosphere, a day-night cycle that's sort of similar to ours.
So it's not just about visiting Mars, it's about actually living there long term.
Exactly. And that's where AI comes in again. Musk really believes that AI is going to be crucial to making Mars habitable. I mean, think about it. Setting up a colony on another planet, completely self-sustaining. You'd need to grow food, generate energy, recycle waste, manage life support. It's mind-bogglingly complex.
Yeah, it would take an incredible amount of precision and coordination. I can see how AI could be essential for that.
It's like AI would be the brains of the operation, right? Handling all the complex systems, constantly monitoring and adjusting things, making sure everything runs smoothly. That would free up humans to focus on other things, like exploration and research.
So AI would basically be running the show, keeping the colony alive and functioning.
In a way, yeah. And that's just the beginning. As AI gets more sophisticated, who knows, maybe it could even help terraform Mars, make it more Earth-like, more suitable for humans.
Yeah.
It's a long way off, but it's a possibility.
So it's almost like Musk is creating a backup plan for humanity, just in case things go really south here on Earth.
That's one way to look at it.
Mm.
But it's also about pushing the boundaries of what's possible, expanding our horizons, becoming a more adaptable and resilient species. Not putting all our eggs in one basket.
Yeah, it's a bold vision. You have to admire his ambition. He's not afraid to think big and go after these seemingly impossible goals.
And it all circles back to this question of what it means to be human in an age of increasingly powerful technology. I mean, Musk's vision raises some pretty deep questions about our relationship with machines, our place in the universe, the future of our species.
Okay, so we've talked about how Musk's companies are connected to his overall vision. And we've touched on his philosophy of using technology to tackle these huge challenges facing humanity. But how does all this relate to our lives today? What does it mean for our future?
That's the key question, right? And it's important to remember this isn't just theoretical. These ideas are already having a real impact on the world around us.
Like how? Give me some examples.
Well, just look at Tesla. Electric cars are becoming mainstream now, and Tesla's leading the charge. That's changing the auto industry. It's impacting the environment. It's changing how we think about transportation. And it's happening right now.
And SpaceX is launching rockets and satellites at an incredible pace, pushing the boundaries of space exploration. That's driving innovation and opening up new possibilities. It's pretty amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even Neuralink, even though it's still early days, it's pushing the limits of what we thought was possible with brain-computer interfaces. And that has the potential to revolutionize healthcare, change our understanding of the human brain. Who knows what else?
So it's not just sci-fi fantasies. We're talking about concrete developments that are already shaping our world.
Right. And that's why it's so important to understand Musk's vision and to think about the broader implications of AI. Because this stuff is going to keep developing faster and faster, and it's going to impact our lives in ways we probably can't even imagine yet, whether we like it or not.
It really does feel like we're living in a science fiction novel sometimes, except it's actually happening.
I know, right? It's exciting, but it can also be a little bit daunting.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to approach it with a sense of curiosity and a willingness to engage with these big questions.
Yeah.
Because they matter.
Okay, so let's dive into some of those big questions. We've talked about the potential benefits of AI, but what about the downsides? What are some of the risks we need to be aware of as AI becomes more and more integrated into our lives?
Well, we've already mentioned a few, like job displacement. AI taking over jobs that humans used to do, and the potential for AI to perpetuate biases if we're not careful about the data it's trained on.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other concerns, too.
Like what? What else should we be thinking about?
One big one is this idea that AI could become so powerful that it surpasses human intelligence and control. Like it takes over basically the robots taking over the world scenario.
Yeah, that's the classic sci-fi trope, but are people actually worried about that?
I mean, some serious thinkers are, yeah. It might sound far-fetched, but it's a possibility we can't just ignore, especially if we're not careful about how we develop and deploy AI.
I can see how that would be a concern. If we create something that's smarter than us, how do we control it? How do we ensure it doesn't turn against us?
Exactly. And then there's the question of accountability. If an AI system makes a mistake, who's responsible? The programmer,
Huh.
the company that created it, or the AI itself? These are complex questions that we need to start grappling with now before it's too late.
It seems like the more powerful AI becomes, the more important it is to have ethical guidelines in place to make sure it's used responsibly for the benefit of humanity.
Absolutely. And that's something Musk has been talking about too. He's argued that we need to develop AI in a way that aligns with human values and goals, not just let it develop on its own without any guidance or oversight.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about the values we embed in that technology and the choices we make about how we use it.
Exactly. It's like any powerful tool.
Right.
A hammer can be used to build a house or to break something. It all depends on the intention of the person using it.
And with AI, it feels like the stakes are even higher. We're not just talking about physical tools, we're talking about tools that can think, learn, and make decisions. That's a whole different ballgame.
It is, and it's why these conversations are so important. We need to be talking about this, thinking about the potential benefits and risks of AI, so we can make informed decisions about how we want to shape the future.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential downsides of AI, and we've touched on the need for ethical guidelines. But I want to circle back to something you said earlier about AI being a tool to address humanity's existential challenges. Can you expand on that a little?
Sure. One of the things I find most interesting about Musk is this belief that AI can actually help us solve some of the biggest problems facing humanity, like climate change, resource scarcity, even the threat of extinction from asteroid impacts or other cosmic events.
So it's not just about making our lives easier or more efficient.
Yeah.
It's about using AI to ensure the long-term survival of our species. That's a pretty big deal.
It is. It gives us a sense of hope. We're not just powerless in the face of these massive challenges. AI could be the key to overcoming them.
Can you give some concrete examples of how AI could be used to address these existential threats? Like, how would it actually work?
Well, for climate change, AI could help us develop more efficient renewable energy sources, optimize our energy grids, maybe even capture carbon emissions directly from the atmosphere, things we can't do effectively right now.
So it's not just about reducing our carbon footprint, it's about actually reversing the damage we've done.
Wow. Right. And for resource scarcity, AI could help us manage our resources much more efficiently. Everything from water conservation to agriculture to waste management. We can use our resources more sustainably without sacrificing our quality of life.
It sounds like AI could help us create a future that's both environmentally sustainable and economically viable. That's really encouraging.
It is. And there's so much more AI can help us detect and deflect dangerous asteroids, develop new medical technologies to extend human lifespans, even explore the universe in ways we haven't even imagined yet.
It's like AI could unlock a future where humanity not only survives, but thrives. That's a powerful vision.
It is. But again, it all comes back to this idea that AI is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It all depends on us.
We have to make sure it's used for the benefit of humanity, not for its destruction. That's a huge responsibility.
It is. And it's why things like education, awareness, and public engagement are so important. We need to be having these conversations openly and honestly about the potential and the risks of AI so we can make informed decisions about the future we want to create.
It's not just about the experts and engineers. It's about all of us having a say in how this technology shapes our world. Because it will shape our world one way or another.
Exactly. The future of AI isn't predetermined. It's something we're all creating together. And it's up to us to make sure it's a future we can all be proud of.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the potential of AI to address some of humanity's biggest challenges, but we've also acknowledged the potential risks and the need for ethical guidelines. But I want to come back to something you said earlier about AI fundamentally changing what it means to be human. That's a really big idea.
It is, yeah. And it raises some profound questions about our identity, our values, our future as a species. Questions we don't have easy answers for.
It almost feels like we're standing on the edge of a new era, a new chapter in human history, and we don't know exactly what's on the other side.
I think that's a good way to put it. It's exciting, but it's also a little bit scary. But I think it's important to approach it with a sense of curiosity, with a willingness to embrace the unknown, to be open to new possibilities.
Because the future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we create through the choices we make every day.
Exactly. And with AI, we have a powerful new tool to shape that future. It's up to us to use it wisely and to ensure that it leads us toward a future that's both technologically advanced and deeply human.
Okay, so we've explored the possibilities and the challenges of AI, and we've considered the broader implications for humanity. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to bring it back to something we touched on earlier, the idea of AI fundamentally changing what it means to be human.
Right, and that opens up some really big questions about who we are, what we value, what our future as a species might look like. It's pretty mind-blowing stuff.
All right, so we're back, and things are about to get real. We've spent the last two parts of this deep dive exploring Elon Musk's vision, AI, all the possibilities, and let's be honest, some of the things that keep us up at night. But now I think we need to bring it home. How do we as individuals actually deal with a world where AI is becoming more and more a part of everything?
I think that's the question, isn't it? We can talk about Musk, we can talk about these big ideas, but at the end of the day, AI is going to touch all of our lives, whether we're tech experts or not.
And that's what's kind of exciting and terrifying at the same time. It's like we know big changes are coming, but it's hard to wrap your head around what it means for, our jobs, our relationships, even our sense of self.
Yeah, it's a lot to process.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get caught up in the fear, the uncertainty. But I think the most important thing is to remember that we're not just passive bystanders here. We have a choice in how this all plays out.
Okay, so instead of just letting AI happen to us, how do we take control? How do we make sure it's actually a good thing in our lives?
Well, knowledge is power, right? We talked before about education, and I think that's crucial. But it's not just about the technical stuff, the nuts and bolts of how AI works. It's about understanding the bigger picture, the different ways AI is being developed, the ethical questions it raises.
So reading articles, listening to podcasts like this one, just staying informed about what's going on.
Exactly. Because the more you know, the more you can start making conscious choices about how you interact with AI, the apps you use, the things you buy, even the information you consume. It's all increasingly influenced by AI in some way.
I never thought of it like that, but it makes sense. We're so used to just using technology without really thinking about it.
And that leads to the next step, using your voice. Don't be afraid to ask questions, to push back against things that feel wrong, to support companies that are doing AI in a way that aligns with your values.
So it's not just about our personal choices, it's about being part of the bigger conversation.
Exactly. Voting with our wallets, speaking up about what we believe in, even pushing for regulations that make sure AI is developed ethically. This isn't just about tech, it's about our society, our future.
Okay, so we need to stay informed, we need to make our voices heard, but let's get even more personal. What can we do as individuals to make sure we don't become, robots ourselves? How do we hold on to what makes us human in a world of AI?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I think the answer might be surprisingly simple. Focus on the things that make us human.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Creativity, empathy, critical thinking, the ability to connect with other people on a deep level. Those are the things that are hardest for AI to replicate.
It's funny, you're right. Those are the things we often take for granted, but they're what make us unique.
Exactly. So the more we nurture those qualities, the more we're not just becoming, more competitive in the job market, we're actually living richer, more fulfilling lives.
So even if AI can do more and more tasks, those human qualities will always be valuable.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to remember that technology should serve us, not the other way around. We have to be mindful of how we use it, make sure it's helping us live better lives, not just consuming our time and attention.
So setting boundaries, putting the phone down sometimes, making time for things that bring us joy, connection, meaning, family, friends, hobbies, nature. Those are the things that make us human.
You got it. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. The future isn't something that just happens. It's something we're all creating every single day with the choices we make.
So let's make choices that lead us to a future that's not just technologically advanced, but also deeply human. A future we can all be proud of.
I couldn't agree more.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep shaping the future.